Hi guys, it's AZ from Canada with one of the best audio production and mixing courses. I have the most important announcement I ever made on YouTube. By the way, the value of this course is higher than anything else you can buy in audio production field. It's much more than any other course equipment, monitors, microphones, plugins, whatever. How it works, the information is in the description or in the first pinned comment. Also, there is my credits and 250 and 155 star reviews verified by Google. It's one of them. It's the latest one from the guy who participating right now. Make a pause and read his review. So the announcement, potentially on October 1st I need to decide whether I go to absolutely amazing new job or I continue teaching my course, which I was teaching for the last 12 years as my only job. Even if I choose the new job I will be releasing, but the quantity of free videos will be much less and the quantity of full lessons which you buy every week will be decreased. Maybe it will be one lesson per 2 weeks. If you ever hesitated and you were thinking maybe I will attend but a bit later, now it's time to start. You support this course as my primary job, then we continue in the same way. If you already participated, bring your friends, spread the word. Description or in the first pinned comment. Hey Rupert Neve.
Hey Andrew, tell me, what is the best thing you ever learned in audio production?
My 4 grandparents were all teachers. I graduated from elite physics mathematics lyceum and I got bachelor degree in computer science. So I have analytical skills and the only job I ever had in my life is audio engineer, and I'm the craziest tester. I literally spent my last 25 years from the morning to the evening and even unslept nights for comparisons. I learned literally everything in audio production by myself, basically maybe stupidly inventing the wheel, but definitely something I learned from other guys. And if you ask me what is the best thing you ever learned from somebody else, I will say it's a prediction method. There is nothing else which will be even comparable to this method. It's the best thing in audio production ever. Dave Grohl from Foo Fighters once said, "You always should praise the people who influenced you the most. Give them some respect." I salute to Michael and George Martin. So this is what Dave Grohl says.
Встречаешь человека, который помог тебе стать тем музыкантом, каким ты стал. Думаю, очень важно признавать это.
Oh my god, did you understand what he said? What kind of language is it? Dave Grohl is a spy? I usually don't like books, they are too primitive and not in depth. But one book, and actually its topic, impressed me the most. It's Mixing with Your Mind. Author is Michael Paul Stavro. Foreword by Sir George Martin. Their approach called prediction method. Difficult, it's not for everybody, it's for only experienced ears. I almost gave up when I was trying. I spent like 3 months and almost gave up. But later I understood it and I created actually more simple method. I called it hybrid method, which is simplified version of prediction method. This method were created for equalizer, but I modified this method to be applicable on a compressor. Right now it's a part of full lesson 14. As a main topic in lesson 14 we're covering dynamics and now it's a compressor topic. So I'm gonna apply this hybrid method or prediction method basically on a compressor. It's the best thing ever, check it out. Basically it's how to make decision on any settings in your project. So basically it's the most fundamental skill you need. And you all the time do it wrong, because you don't use prediction method. Let me show you. I use this project, sounds pretty bad. Again, I'm not gonna play fool and I'm not gonna fool you like everybody else do on YouTube. They take perfect project, pretty good sounding sources, they polish it somehow, they throw some compressor on the vocal. This vocal already sounds good in the mix. It doesn't need heavily evening out effect. Vocal sounds so pristine and clear that maybe no artifacts you ever hear with the wrong settings people apply. Instead, I'm gonna be using bad sounding project. If I do something wrong, all these disadvantages, all this overcompression, all this noise, oversaturation will come out. Even spills and noises on the back. Sounds like this, recorded by Telefunken Company.
Treating people just like pawns and chess.
I'm gonna balance vocal a bit, because first thing what you always do, you choose volume which is more or less appropriate, so a bit less volume for this vocal.
Pawns and chess.
Prediction method for EQ is modified to hybrid method for compressor. I copy and paste notes from my other notes to speed up explanation. So step number 1, listen to an instrument and decide how it should sound after modification. So don't apply any presets, don't apply any settings yet. Listen to this vocal.
Treating people just like pawns and chess.
First 2 syllables, word treating, 2 syllables.
Treating.
Ting in the end of second syllable, volume goes up, so vocal jumps out of the mix.
Treating people.
People.
Treating people.
Vocal was recorded with a handheld microphone. So the guy who performed the song, by the way, it's a cover. Do you know the original performer of the song? Because I asked this question in some previous video and people gave really confused answers. So let me know in the comment section what this song is. I know the name of the song, but do you know? Transients, popping sounds, plosives to the microphone, like p. Because of this, vocal sounds like p explosion in the beginning of each syllable. It's like transient spike.
Treating people just like pawns and shares.
Then like pawn word, like completely crazy. It's the loudest note of this performance, completely wrongly performed. I would say vocalists go completely uncontrollable here. Check it out how louder this note is. So we need a compressor. So what kind of modifications I want? First of all, I want to even out notes. For example, I want treating to be changed to treating people. I want to get rid of this p in the beginning. Word pawn totally out of control, you know, in this performance. So we need evening out effect. Step 2. Not playing music in silence. Set up ratio, attack and release. Just imagine not playing music. I should set up all these parameters. This is the core idea of prediction method. This is the best idea of all time. I'm gonna give you pros and cons of why it is, but first of all I'm gonna explain how I will set up these 3 parameters. That's why it's called prediction method. I try to predict how these parameters should be set up. I put this compressor, very old and very known compressor, but in my opinion is the best compressor to learn compression, you know, and still pretty fine compressor as well. It has some extra settings, we're gonna deactivate it, automatic release, extra coloration. The question is why we should set up ratio first. It has nothing to do with prediction method. This set of parameters I chose by myself. We had amazing topics starting from lesson 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 on how we really should set up these parameters, and I explained all strategies and all pros and cons of high ratio, low ratio, attack, release. So I'm gonna quickly mention a couple of those, but it will be little piece of those full-blown lessons. A ratio first, because one of the biggest mistakes people make, they set up some random threshold and then they increase or decrease amount of compression by increasing or decreasing ratio. It's completely wrong approach. If we go 2-to-1, amount of force, louder notes more squashed and quieter notes less compressed, it will be not enough. It would be too subtle compression in this case. That's why I don't set up 2-to-1. Also, I don't set up 10-to-1 because, for example, notes like people, if something goes above the threshold and your ratio is 10-to-1, your note in the beginning of a note, this like p sound, plosives, they will be triggering so aggressive compression that notes will be completely squashed and probably the whole word people will be much quieter than nearby words. That's why I choose the best setting for evening out effect. I explain all these nuances and why it is like this. I use 4-to-1, so 4.00, it means 4-to-1 on this compressor. It's the best release in the history for evening out effect. So I choose this parameter, as you can see, not by listening something, but more like strategic decision, trying to predict how it will sound eventually in the mix. Then my next step is attack. I understand one simple thing. Majority of vocal compressors have very short attack other than LA2A. LA2A is very famous vocal compressor which has 10 milliseconds. The problem with LA2A, it has residual compression. Compression of the second stage, release of the second stage, which going on every next note again and again and again, applying anyway compression to the beginning of the next note, no matter how long attack is. So LA2A is not really the case, to say it's a long attack. Other compressors known with vocals always have very short attack, let's say like Fairchild, the Beatles band, main vocal compressor, which has less than millisecond attack, and 1176. In its longest attack position, it's less than 1 millisecond time. And Chris Rodelji, one of mixers I dug back in the days when I was extensively learning, he uses 1176 Blue Stripe compressor on the vocal with position 3. 3 on 1176 is roughly 0.5, 0.6 milliseconds. So I kind of can start with this setting. As I already mastered prediction method so much, I already know 0.5 probably will be a mistake on this vocal. Yeah, plus I know this plugin, and with the prediction method I examined this plugin million times. So prediction method also allows you to learn your software, your compressors or my analog compressors, which amazing because it allows you to improve your listening skills, decision skills, and knowing your software to the maximum extent. I'm gonna mention it as a list of benefits of prediction method. But for now, let's say I would increase attack a little bit, but let's say I'm gonna pretend like I'm not that experienced. Let's say I go with 0.5 milliseconds attack. Another parameter is release. Let me quickly show you why short attack should be really short attack. Let's say he goes 3, then ting. So ting sounds like louder than 3. Then people with the crazy spike, and then people. Pull also goes with this crazy spike on the transient, plosives, coming from the handheld microphone. Let's say we put a threshold for compression, as you understand. Gain reduction meter, or submarine, I call it submarine, it dives under the surface of the water, like this, by some amount, let's say minus 6 decibels, and then it goes back to the surface to no working position. I explained this in all full previous lessons. Now imagine this. If attack time will be, let's say, 0.5 milliseconds, at least it allows me, first of all, to consider the whole first node from the very beginning, second node also from the very beginning. So if, let's say, second node louder than first one, starting compressing from the very beginning allows me to really balance between these two nodes. Another issue, transients. I use short attack, so this transient definitely should be compressed, because it's too emphasized. I want to capture it. So that's why I need to capture it from the very beginning. So I use pretty short attack over here and over here as well. What's the problem with the long attack over here? If I apply any long type of attack, I'm not saying about long attacks like 100 milliseconds, those not long attacks. I already explained what they are and why not to use them in those previous lessons. But let's say you apply this classic 30 milliseconds attack, which SSL, slow attack mode, channel compressor has. So 30 milliseconds, as you understand, is quite longer than 1 millisecond or 0.5. In this case, first node will be compressed only after some time, after 30 milliseconds. Of course, during first 30 milliseconds, compression start going on, but it achieves its maximum amount only after attack time, after 30 milliseconds. Second node also gonna be compressed only afterward. If for some reason second node was louder than first node, let's say originally it was a bit more like this, compressor will not recognize it because it's almost like sleeping for first 30 milliseconds. So I'm not gonna even out first node and second node, like this. After we have this punch in the third syllable, in the P of the word P, pull. So P punches, but compressor doesn't see it. Compressor still sleeping kind of. So it will be compressing mostly the tail. And then in the last syllable also sleeping and only then compressing the tail. It's compressing a little bit during the attack period of time. You normalize volume, you restore volume back, and you're gonna have this punch even more prominent in the word P, pull. Compressor makes everything quieter. You normalize it back and this like put will be even more exaggerated with uneven second node. That's why I choose short attack over there. I use strategic decisions. I don't listen to anything yet. Continue listening because it's quite important. It's crazy important because nowadays something wrong with our generations. You know what I mean? People just eager to get everything in 1 second, in 1 minute, you know. It's impossible, you know. When back in the days people came to me for 9 months course and asked me if I can cover everything in 2 months, I said no. For the sake of money, I could say yes, but I always was honest. I turned students away just because I honestly said them, no, it's impossible to learn audio production in 2 months. It takes 9 months on my course, but even 9 months it's on the edge of possibilities. You know what I mean? The same with this video. Don't try to understand everything in 1 minute. Continue watching, it's quite important. Is basically the most important subject. Okay, now I choose release time. Release time is when submarine dives like this and then goes to the surface. If my release time, let's say, something like, you know, those classic Fairchild 300 milliseconds or 800 milliseconds or NIF 2254 minimal release time, 400 milliseconds. First of all, listen to this vocal. Do you think those notes are too long?
Treating people just like pawns and ships.
The guy doesn't go like 3 T or something like this, you know what I mean? He goes like treating people just like, so it's a talkative vocal. So he talking, it's a rap almost with the notes instead of just blah blah blah, you know what I mean? So obviously notes are quite short. And if I apply something like 300, 500 milliseconds, trajectory of release would be potentially, tendency of trajectory of release would be like this. I drew this note probably a bit incorrectly, second note. Let's make it definitely louder because it's a louder note with emphasis on the tail of it. Okay, so in this case we compress by medium amount first note and release time supposed to be quite too long. We compress first note with a medium amount of compression like this. Second note should be compressed a bit more, so in this case you're gonna match volume of the first note and second note. But previous note and compression still going on, it's called residual compression. I explained this term which I invented back in the days and what it really means, how actual compression goes together with residual compression. I explained it in the previous lessons. So in this case, this note will not be compressed a bit more, it will be compressed much more, like this. So eventually, instead of evening out these notes, you potentially can make them even more uneven. Second note triggers its own compression, obviously, so it's going on, going on, going on, and suddenly next note appears. I already applied short attack compression, which is supposed to be squash this transient, this spiky plosives of p, p. This p sound should be compressed quite a lot, but we still have residual compression going on from the previous note, going and going and going. So I over compress this part. I make so deeply diving submarine or gain reduction meter that this note will be completely over compressed. And the same will happen with the next note, maybe even more. Eventually, first two syllables, treating, will be in general louder than other two syllables, which is people. So it will be like trading people. It will not serve any purposes. What I try to achieve with this compressor, I want evening out effect and some smoothing out for some disadvantages of different notes. So instead, what I do, I apply quite short release. I need to stop compression quite faster, you know, like this. But at the same time, the question is if I can apply like a really short release. Also no. If I apply release something like 5 milliseconds, it will create artifacts. What kind of artifacts it will create, I explained it in the previous lessons. Okay, classic 50 milliseconds. Empirical up distressor has the shortest release as 50 milliseconds. 1176, famous compressor, this one. Blackface compressor. I'm not a racist, I mean, it's a nickname of this compressor, Blackface. Actually, it's me who under attack of racists. You Slavic mother, father, how you dare to teach any audio engineering or something like this. So 50 milliseconds. In my opinion, 50 milliseconds, with what I know about what I can hear and what this compressor can do, I definitely understand that 50 milliseconds also can be too short. For example, submarine dives and too quickly coming back to the surface. It's also electron mode, VCA compressor, you know. So it jumps and coming back to the surface too quickly. I mean, dives and coming back to the surface too quickly. Potentially some notes, instead of like, for example, 3, may sound like 3. You know, the very end of some notes can be too loud because they don't get any compression. So I believe 50 milliseconds is a bit dangerous in this case. Again, don't worry, if you don't know all these principles, you can learn them with all my lessons which I already released. Also, then you practice, and the benefit of prediction method, the more you use it, the more you know all this. All these skills get under your skin naturally. You mix, you make music, and at the same time you practice and learn. This is probably the best benefit of prediction method. And actually, prediction method gives you much better settings and overall result than any other method. I believe we need to prolong release to keep those very end of tails of some notes a bit under compression, so I put, let's say, 100 milliseconds. Again, if you ask me if I totally can bet on these 100 milliseconds, I would say no, I would make it a bit longer. From experience again. But again, I'm gonna play full, I'm gonna say, let's say I'm not still that experienced. I'm gonna put, let's say, just 100 milliseconds. Now, before I give you the steps number 3, 4, and 5 is the most important, I'm gonna give you the list of benefits of prediction methods right now. It's unbelievable. I mean, sorry guys, everybody exaggerate everything on the internet, right? But, I mean, it's really the best. Difficult? You need to learn it? But it's the best. I'm gonna copy and paste it from my notes, but I quickly gonna explain each one by one. So this is the list. As you can see over here, I explain why not to move parameters in real time. As you can see, I set up everything sitting in silence. So why it's like this? First benefit is we don't force our brain to make many comparisons within a short period of time. Let's say I'm gonna be using the method like majority of people would use. If I need to set up, let's say, attack parameter, I would move it in real time from shorter to longer, trying to define which setting is better. I do it like this.
Treating people just like pawns, he says. Wait till their judgment day comes.
Imagine this, while this vocal was playing, I tried to compare with my brain and my ears 0.5 versus 0.6, which I moved with the mouse cursor quite quickly. So it's a first comparison which I should make in probably 10th of a second, and I need to decide what sounds better, 0.5 or 0.6. So crazy fast comparison. But next, at the very next moment, I need to compare 0.6 versus 0.7. Can I do it? And then 0.7 versus 1. And then 1 versus 1.3. And then 1.3 versus 2 milliseconds. And 2 milliseconds versus 2.5. And 2.5 versus 3. And 3 versus 3.5, and so on and so on. So I was playing these two lines for like 5 seconds. I needed to make perfect decisions between what settings was the best, making, let's say, 10, 15, 20 different micro comparisons. How it's even possible? Also, probably very important to mention, I put this or in the text over here, too little difference between options. Don't you think 0.5 versus 0.6 will give you almost roughly the same sound? How your brain can recognize it as a better option or worse option? Then 0.6 versus 0.7, then 0.7 versus 1, 1 versus 1.5, 1.5 versus 2. They're sounding almost identical. It's so difficult to really make a decision over there. Within 3 seconds, making 10, 15 different comparisons. Next, we don't listen to different notes with the other setting because each is different. What this piece of text means, he goes 3 ding. So when you say 3, it's 0.5. When you say ting, it's already 1 millisecond. P, it's already 1.5. Pull, it's already 3 milliseconds. Just, it's already 4 milliseconds. Like, it's already 5 milliseconds. Pawn, it's already 7 milliseconds. But don't you think P sounds not exactly like 3, and pawn sounds completely different. So how you can compare? Let's say this is 3, this is ting, this is p, this is pull. 3 has 0.5 milliseconds, while let's say pull has already 1.5 milliseconds. But this note sounds completely different. It has different pitch, different volume, because human being is not a robot. The guy increases and decreases volume all the time while performing it. Also, it has strange popping sounds, plosives on this note. So maybe 1.5 with these plosives and with this volume of this particular note sounds good, but maybe 1.5 will not be working, let's say, for this beginning note, 3. And opposite, maybe 0.5 sounds good for first note, but sounds completely ugly for this fourth note. You know what I mean? So you basically compare something with nothing. Bricks is to build the building, and toothpaste is to brush your teeth. So how you compare one thing and with other thing, what's better, you know what I mean? Next benefit of this approach, ears are fresh as we sit in silence. You probably heard about ear fatigue. If you listen to all the time again and again and again, you start to be tired, your ears already cannot recognize micro differences. If I'm gonna do it like back and forth, and playing again and again and again and again, minutes by minutes, hour by hour, moving all the knobs back and forth, and sliders, eventually you're gonna be tired, you will not make any decisions. Prediction method is not about comparison little things over a short period of time and hundreds of comparisons. Prediction method is about noticeable difference between option A and option B, only 2 options, only 1 comparison, and all settings should be set up in silence. So basically I set up something like this, I create option B, I change settings, but noticeably different, you know, let's say like this. And then I switch this just versus this, that's it. But all settings should be done in silence. While I'm sitting in silence, it's not exactly the core idea, be careful, I just showed you some bullshit over here. It's just for the sake of showing you what exactly, eventually you're gonna be comparing just 2 options. Don't think it's the whole idea of prediction method. Let's come back to this one, I'm gonna explain. What I'm saying, while I changing, let's say, attack to some number, I'm sitting in silence. I keep my ears completely under pushed. They in silence, they relaxing, they don't need to listen to anything, and you don't need to analyze anything. You know, you just set up setting. That's it. Amazing. Next, we focus on the movement rather on the sound. It's what happens when you move these parameters in real time. Mouse, amazing animals, actually our little brothers, because we all animals, literally speaking. These amazing animals, they created this controller on their probably secret factory or something. And as you know, you have this strain in your fingers and you should be very precise with your movement. So when I press play and I move attack, I should pay so much attention to my movement. I really stressed out to make this movement precise.
Treating people just like pawns and shares. Wait till their judgment day comes. All right now.
So the question is, what I heard about this? I probably spent 10% of my attention on listening and 90% of my attention on moving the slider. In prediction method, you don't need to move anything in real time. That's why you completely pay attention only to the sound. The next benefit, trained ears and skills. Imagine in your project, let's say you have 100 channels. Let's say each channel has one EQ, one compressor. You need to set up EQ with prediction method and you need to set up a compressor with prediction method. So it's already 200 practice activities with prediction method. And it's only in one song. And then 2 songs, 3 songs, year by year, and you're gonna have so much skills of listening, making decisions, recognizing micro things, micro nuances. And then you will not be one of those guys which you can see right now on every YouTube comparison video, where people compare 2 microphones and half of commenters say, first microphone is the warmest, and second half of commenters say, no, second microphone is the warmest. You're not gonna be a beginner with your ears. You're gonna be much more above all this crowd, you know. As I already mentioned, better knowledge about your plugins. Let's be honest, seems like everybody more or less knows what attack does, release does, ratio, but every plugin sounds different due to the way how they make those plugins, how they emulate. Different plugins have different technologies, even hidden things which you probably never consider, like curve of attack, curve of release, you know, style of compressors, feed forward or feedback circuitry. Who knows about all this? And the thing is, let's say on my computer I have 100 equalizer or 100 compressors. Let's say out of them I have 20 favorite ones. And I use each one of these 20 on many different instruments, on kicks, on drums, on punchy drums, and on soft drums, on unclear basses and clear basses, on percussive notes and long notes, in fast songs, slow songs. And I start knowing these compressors. I take one compressor and let's say prediction method. I know all this softwares to so high level of understanding. It's just crazy, you know what I mean? But because of prediction method. Let's continue what you do next. Step number 3. Set up the threshold by playing, but don't listen to it. Strange statement, but what it means, you need some strategic decision how much compression you want. For example, this vocal is uneven. 3 dB of compression probably will not make those notes pretty polished and very even with each other and vocal will sit in the mix. 6 dB, 7 dB will be probably enough. But 10 dB can overcompress, oversquash some notes. Some quiet parts will go louder, you're gonna have more noise, more saturation, more harmonics, all this dirt will go up. So that's why I'm gonna apply 7 dB of compression. But how I can set up this compressor if I don't see even how much this compressor does? That's why I press play. I don't listen to. I just move threshold up and down until I see 7 dB of compression. 7 dB of compression is when gain reduction meter commonly shows 7 dB of volume suppression.
Treating people just like pawns and shares. Treating people just like pawns and shares.
-3, -6, and all the time goes a bit below -6. So this is 7 dB of compression. Of course, compressor makes everything quieter. And that's why step number 4 suggests. Again, prediction method is not about compressor, and they don't have some of these statements. It's my modified method called hybrid method, which is applicable for the compressor. But of course, godfathers of this method is Michael and George Martin. So set up makeup gain by playing, listen to it. Now, you of course cannot recognize how much volume you need until you listen to it, you know. Luckily, you already set up more or less good level before compression. Now you're gonna push gain up, output makeup gain, output volume basically. If it compresses 7 dB, but 7 dB is like roughly maximum shifts, probably overall compression would be like 4 dB. 4 dB volume compensation. I press play, and then now if vocal will be jumping out of the mix and sounding emitter, I will decrease volume. If vocal will be sounding drowning in the mix and unclear, I will increase vocal.
Treating people just like pawns and chess.
3.9, perfect.
Treating people just like pawns and chess.
And most important step, step number 5. Listen to it without and with compressor and decide if we achieved the sound we wanted. So you should compare before compression and after compression. If you didn't achieve the sound you wanted, which is highest chance probably, of course you will not guess the best sound from the first attempt. But the cool thing about prediction method, the more you try, the more you learn how to do it. And the more you use this method, the closer you to the best sound. So you actually improve ability to guess from the first attempt much more over time. But definitely you're probably not gonna guess the perfect sound. So if not, if you didn't guess, stop playing and again in full silence, change the settings and play again. You know, like another attempt how it would sound, you know. And if it still doesn't sound good, do it again and again and again until you get to the point when it sounds right. Don't worry, it's the most important step, but it seems like not necessarily you understand how important the step is from the first sight. Let me show you. So basically I set up all the settings. Now this is how it sounded before.
Treating people just like pawns and chess.
Treating people. Even in the pull sounds almost like pull.
Treating people just
People. You know what I mean? For sure, I guarantee. And pawn like super crazy boosted. With the compressor.
treating people just like pawns and chess.
I like how we managed pawn word, which was the most dominant word. Now it sounds in between other words, so it doesn't sound too jumping out. It's good.
Treating people just like pawns and chess.
But the problem is, it even sounds a bit overcompressed. You know, chess, the very next word, sounds actually kind of like louder and more present because of probably brighter sounds ch and s, basically sibilances. Also, the problem with the word people seems like treating sounds medium and then people sounds overcompressed.
Treating people.
Right? People a bit overcompressed, too much compression for it. I blame attack parameter for it, you know. So my idea is, I believe why it happens like this, because we compress too quickly, and this transient in the beginning of p, it's a syllable p, and syllable pull, also p sound plosive. They trigger too much compression over here. That's why people becomes overly compressed. That's why I need to increase attack a bit, to allow a little bit of peaks to go through. You know, in your note, usually you have like hundreds of peaks. Let's say in a P, you have 300 peaks. You can see it over here. P is from here to here. So if you zoom in, you can see all this crazy number of peaks. Medium, louder, louder, medium, quiet, medium, medium, louder, upside down. Among 300 peaks seems like at least a couple of peaks, 5 peaks maybe. Go maybe a bit too above the threshold and it's in the beginning and compressor instantly captures it and apply too much compression to it. So I definitely would increase attack time on this compressor, maybe to 1 millisecond. It's still in the ballpark of very short attack anyway. So let's listen to it.
Treating people.
The difference between my hybrid method and Michael's and George Martin prediction method, they want to set up all parameters at once. I understand for majority of my students it would be too difficult. So in my hybrid method, I exactly go parameter by parameter, but still applying all benefits and all approaches of prediction method. But we can just focus right now on attack parameter. So 1 millisecond.
Treating people.
Notice how people already doesn't sound too quiet. People doesn't sound like overcompressed.
Treating people just like pawns and chess.
Absolutely great. Actually, I can go even longer a bit, maybe 1.5.
Treating people just like pawns and chess.
Seems like already something jumping out back and forth, so I'm gonna come back to 1 millisecond. Maybe 1.2.
Treating people just like pawns and chess.
Notice I compared literally 0.5 versus 1, then 1 versus 1.5, and now I compared 1.5 versus 1.2. Minimal number of comparisons with straightforward differences. I can try 30 milliseconds if you like, I can put 30 milliseconds attack.
Treating people.
Of course, I decreased the amount of compression a lot, I would need to compensate it with the threshold.
Treating people just like pawns and chess.
I absolutely don't like the result because even two chess sounds like like too punchy,
Treating people just like pawns and chess.
Pawn, two chess, even people, even more exaggerated. Let's come back to 1.19.
Treating people just like pawns and chess.
Now I hear some problem with the release.
Treating.
Release coming back to no working position too quickly.
Treating people just like pawns.
People.
Treating people just.
In all those moments, actually, it sounds exaggerated. Also, I don't like the word chess.
Treating people just like pawns and chess.
Seems like ch sound in comparison to nearby sounds, and ch becomes more exaggerated. Seems like after word pawn, I need to hold compression a bit longer to smooth out sound ch in the word chess.
Treating people just like pawns and chess.
So what I'm gonna do, after 2, I need to compress a bit longer to make sound ch in the word chess a bit quieter. So I put release actually 150.
Treating people just like. Treating people.
Trading. Little micro fluctuations, but sounds at the same level. People. Doesn't go like crazy, more like people.
Treating people just like pawns and chess.
And 2 chess at the same level. More or less, again, not maybe 100% perfect, but very good. I can try, let's say, 300 release. It can be another attempt. I will compare 150 versus 300. Who knows, maybe long release is perfect, right? With 300 I increase overall amount of compression, so I probably need to relax threshold a little bit.
Treating people just like. Treating.
3, too quiet. Ting, too loud.
Treating.
Trading. Again, we have some fluctuations.
Treating people just.
People already overcompressed probably after treating, some compression going on, and next transient of people compresses too much, and 300 milliseconds release makes sure that it will hold compression to the maximum.
Treating people just like pawns and chess.
Pawn already overcompressed, probably compression going on under pawn, and then it returns and chess sounds already not as compressed, so chess sounds louder than pawn. So 300 milliseconds doesn't work here. This lesson 14 will continue with so many absolutely amazing topics right now. I'm gonna explain the biggest enemy ear fatigue, something what you never heard about before. I'm gonna provide a guide, I'm gonna give you my discovery which I made for over the last 25 years, what exactly distracts you and how to clarify your ears. Nobody knows this. It's absolutely my own unique approach. I'm gonna give you disadvantages of closing your eyes when you listen to the sound. It's not as cool as you think. Also, I'm gonna explain how to make absolutely perfect final decisions on any parameter when you compare option A and option B. How to get rid of biased opinion on some parameters. I'm gonna give you 3 unique approaches. A very advanced nuance is understanding what concave curve is and convex curve is. VCA compressors versus optical compressors, curve of releases and stuff like this. It's something what majority of my students really was waiting for. As a parallel topic, we have studio setup topics still going on in the lesson number 14, and I'm gonna be busting myths about large speakers versus small speakers. All this nonsense what FAB filters say about the box of monitors, all this nonsense when people say in small rooms you should put small speakers, and actually some of this actually totally true. It's all about how much air you push in front of the speaker and how the air resists to be interrupted by your speaker. You know, it's amazing piece of information. How to buy a full lesson and how my course works, read in the description or in the first pinned comment.